What's going on YouTube? It's Tom here, and we're back with another edge retention testing video today. Today's an interesting one because this is a steel I've never actually used before, and I have it on loan to do some edge retention testing, so I won't be able to do any long-term use on this knife, but we did some edge retention testing, which gives us a pretty good number for this steel. As you guys saw in the video or in the title, this is S110V. Pretty rare steel, honestly, except for a couple production knives made in it. And it's a steel that is readily available for the most part if you guys want to pick one up in the steel. So let's talk a little bit about S110V. It was developed in 2005 by Crucible. It has extremely high wear resistance, and it's actually really corrosion resistant, which is kind of unusual for a high wear resistant steel. If you want to pick up a knife in it, it's used by Spyderco on the PM2, the Para 3, the military, and the native, I believe, as well as the Mannix, I think. So they have a decent amount of models that you can get this S110V in, and that's actually super cool since it's a pretty unique steel and something that's pretty exotic. So it's awesome that Spyderco is making production knives in it. So this stuff can be hardened up to 64 Rockwell. I know a lot of production companies don't take it there, though. I don't know what Spyderco takes it to because they don't publish any of their numbers on it, but I know it's not 64. As far as the composition goes, 2.8% carbon, which enables it to get up to that higher hardness. An absolutely insane 9% vanadium, which is nuts. 15.25% chromium, which gives it its nice stainlessness. 2.25% moly, 2.5% cobalt, and 3% niobium, which is kind of interesting because those form very hard and very fine carbides, harder than vanadium carbides actually. So let's talk about how this was sharpened. So this came to me on the factory edge still. The factory edge was used and it was pretty much dull at that point, but it still was on its factory edge. I sharpened that on my Wicked Edge 200 and 600 grit stones. And I flipped that burr back and forth quite a few times to try and remove any fatigue steel. I'm pretty sure we got all the fatigue steel off based on the result that I got. After I was all done with the 200 and 600 grit diamond, I stropped it on my 16 and 4 micron CBN on leather. And the 16 micron is about 1000 grit. It does a really good job of removing any remaining burr. The 4 micron just kind of refines that. There's a reason why I went with this progression instead of going all the way up to the normal 1200 or putting a micro bevel on it like I normally do. Something this high carbide with the hard carbides like the niobium carbides and the vanadium carbides in there, if you're using the ceramics, you technically could be fatiguing the steel at the edge and you might actually lose performance. That's why I just stopped on just the diamond and the CBN progression here. S110V is a pretty high carbide steel, and that's another reason why I left it at only the 600 grit finish. It's just a much more aggressive edge. So after I sharpened it, I kept it at the factory edge, by the way, which is about 16 degrees per side. Honestly, as far as sharpening goes, I don't see this being any more difficult than something like S30V. It felt very similar to S30V to me. Nothing really stood out about it. It doesn't feel extremely hard or extremely wear resistant like Maximet does when you're sharpening it. And I don't know, it's just not as difficult as a lot of people make it seem. So the edge off of the progression was extremely aggressive. It wasn't refined at all. It was fine enough to cut computer or phone book paper very easily and slice through it well. I'm throwing in a clip right now of it cutting computer paper. I'm actually going to leave some of the sound on so you can hear just how loud or how raggedy the edge still was and how aggressive it was. Because even though it was extremely aggressive, it was still extremely keen and extremely sharp. I came up with an edge kind of like Maximet does at that grit. So I went through the normal motions here. I cut cardboard with it until I couldn't cut paper anymore. In the first 100 feet or so, I actually felt it get a little bit sharper after cutting, just briefly. I've noticed this on some of the higher carbide steels that they don't tend to form like a super keen edge off the stones, but then you cut a little bit with it and it kind of refines that apex a little bit more, and actually it feels like it gets a little bit sharper. It's kind of unique to the real high carbide steels. Maximet does it. Now I notice that S110V does it. It's kind of a unique thing. So I went on cutting until I couldn't cut paper anymore, and I ended up cutting 423.33 feet, which is a very good result, and that's second only to Maximate. That's pretty much what I expected. I expected this to cut between 400 to 500 feet. That was my guess, and for once I was right. One thing I did notice that it lost its sharpness around 350 feet or so. So it stayed pretty much the same level of sharp from after where it kind of got a little bit sharper after that 100 feet I said. It stayed that same level till it got to right around 350. And then I kind of felt it lose a little bit of its sharpness, and then it pretty much just fell flat right after that. It went from cutting computer paper still to just nothing. It wouldn't grab. So that was kind of interesting. I actually there's obviously sections of this knife that haven't been touched by the cardboard, and there's the section that has. So I put those both on the USB microscope so you guys can kind of see the difference between the two. I think that's really cool to see how some of these edges break down. S110V is kind of unique. The edge was kind of toothy when it was freshly sharpened, but it was much more refined than, say, Maximate at the same grip finish. And the section that I'm showing you right now, after it has been used, it actually feels kind of weird, or it looks kind of weird because it actually kind of like chunked out as it broke down. I have a feeling it chunked out and then kind of dulled just at the apex, and that's why it stopped cutting. This is a really, really cool steel, honestly. I'm really impressed with the performance, and honestly, for the price out there that the knives that Spyderco makes in it, that's a really, really good value. And if you guys do something that involves a lot of, cutting cardboard or highly abrasive materials, I definitely think you guys should check out some of these knives in S110V by Spyderco. It seems like a really killer steel for the money, and it's kind of crazy that a production company is putting in the time and effort to work with it and bring it to the market at an affordable price. Anyhow, those are my results with Maximate. That's my first initial experience, and my initial experience here was pretty darn good, and I wouldn't mind picking up something in S110V in the future. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to continue to see more content just like this one. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.